Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Inkarnate live stream. We are live. We're going to be doing points of interest today with the fantasy world style. You know, we never give much attention to that style, and I love that style so much. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, King. Welcome. All right, just to let you know, today I'm going to have Philip and Cheryl modding today. I think Philip has to take off a little bit later in the stream. So if they do, that's okay. Cheryl will be here to do the mod. All right. So again, we're doing points of interest. You're not sure what a point of interest is? Well, here's an example with the world style POIs. We just pieced together some stamps to kind of create villages, towns, city, capital, temple, tower, castle, and a wonder. And we're gonna do that same thing. Now these stamps are the flat front facing style with one dimension. But today we're gonna be working with using 3D or the isometric style, because we already did the flat. So first you're going to want to go to my profile page. If you don't know how to get there, that's okay. I'm going to go ahead and throw the profile link in the chat. Go ahead and click that, go to my profile, and you're going to go ahead and view how to create points of interest. Open that up. Now you're going to want to clone and edit that. Okay, so clone, edit. We're going to open it up, and we're going to be creating a bunch of points of interest. Now we're not going to create all of them. There's about 40 of them total, and that's just too much. There's no way we're going to fit all of those into the stream. So we're only going to just do a couple, and I can let people decide which ones they want to make. It's the same setup. You have the village all the way to the wonder, and then we have for races human, dwarf, orc, elf, and this is undead. Okay, so if you guys want, we can decide. I'm thinking of doing maybe one of each, and that's about it. There's no way we're going to get 40. That's quite a bit. So again, village, we can start with village human and then maybe just go through the list, or you guys can decide which ones you want to start with. We'll start with village and you can decide the race. That's cool with me, whichever one you want. I can throw in a poll, so if you guys want to go and check out that poll and vote for it. There's only 4 viewers right now, so if you guys want to decide, that's fine with me. We can start with maybe the village with human for starters, okay? Again, you want to go to my profile and clone and edit, how to create points of interest. So let's get started. Now, whenever you're working with a point of interest, you always want to start with a certain formula, at least the one that I start with. And I usually start with the landscape first and then create your buildings on top of that. And you want to have a theme. So clearly in this tile, there's the village, and it's a human village. But there's all kinds of things that you can do. There's villages next to rivers. There's villages next to the ocean. There's villages on top of hills. Or there's a village lodged somewhere in the mountain. Now, because we're working with the world style, there's no reason to make a massive point of interest where you're basically showing the entire city and every little house on there. Obviously, that's a bit overkill, and that's something maybe for like a top-down city map with our watercolor city style, right? So maybe that's not the way you want to go. So instead, think of a point of interest on a world map as a icon or a representation. So if you're making a village, you don't have to make every single house in the village. You only have to just add in a couple buildings, like maybe 1 or 2, to kind of represent that it's a small settlement, right? If it was a large settlement like a city, you probably see a couple more houses, more than 2 or 3, like maybe 6. So think about what the theme is, what race, and those things will help to first like craft what it is that you're trying to create with your point of interest. So the first one is a human and a village, and we're just going to create that right away. Again, our mods are Cheryl and Philip, so please ask them any questions if you have any. Hey, first time chatter, welcome. Yo-ho, mateys. I'm here to learn and make some maps for my treasure. Hey, welcome. Glad that you're here. First time chat. Awesome. And just so you know, go ahead up this chat. You'll notice a link that is going to be the map that you're going to want to clone and edit if you want to follow along. And it's okay if you don't. So go check that out and let's get started, okay? So again, you're going to want to start with the landscape. So let's decide what our landscape is going to be. Do we want it to be next to a river, a mountain? Is it just going to be a little village on top of a hill? And that's kind of like the easiest one. So we're going to go into our catalog. You just press that O key. Press that O key, then press the F key to open up the catalog. And once that catalog is open, you're going to have all the options here. Remember, we're in fantasy world, so I'll open up the pack structure so you can kind of take a look at all the different packs that there is. And it looks like it's going to take a second to load, so give me a moment here. It's loading up the mountains and everything. There we go, a little slow, but it is working. Okay, so now look, here we are with our options. Oopsie, I just saw an error right there. Now, okay, so if ever you bump into an error, just to give you a heads up, if ever you bump into some kind of an error or a problem, you're going to want to, and you can't save, or let's say that you can save. Let's just really quick, for the new people are here, let's quickly explain some issue, how to address issues that you bump into. You click the hamburger menu up here, and you're going to go to Help Chat with Support. Go here into Help Support, and you're just going to click Send Us a Message. Okay, and just type in your message and then send it on its way, and we will answer that. Okay, now to get rid of it, just kind of click this orange button right here, and I apologize for that loud noise in the background. Okay, so that's how you fix that problem. If you're unable to save or refresh, make sure that you save an offline backup. Okay, click that Save Offline Backup so you can do that. I'm going to turn my volume down a little bit. This thing is super loud in the background. Okay, much better. All right. Let's keep going. So you're going to start with our background, our landscape first. We'll go back into that catalog, and we're going to choose a theme, right? So let's pick what kind of hill or mountain or whatever our landscape is going to be first. We'll start with something simple. Let's just say a simple hill and there's nothing else, right? So we'll take a landscape stamp. I'm going to make it kind of big so that I can kind of see it like this. So there's our main hill, okay? Now let's just say that you want like the main village structure to be here, which can be, let's say, where the town hall is, and then you have a couple smaller like houses that you can put with hills on the side here. And then we'll put one more hill in the back, maybe like this, and make it just a little bit smaller, okay? And maybe we can even put it on the side over here. Okay, so here's our landscape, and we'll add in trees too, but I'm going to add in trees last. I'm going to put the buildings on first. So let's start with our first structure, and that's going to be like the main town hall or the building that we want to work with. We're not using these flat ones. We're going to use these human settlements right here instead. So let's just go show all here, and these are the three-dimensional ones, or not three-dimensional, isometric, and we're going to pick one that's going to be suitable to maybe like a town hall, or maybe it's the main inn, and that's where most of the villagers kind of patron that building. So let's just go put this on top just like this. If it's not in the right layer, just go up a layer. You can just do that like this, go up. So this is that first structure. Let's just say this is where the inn is. And let's just say that it's a small village. So we'll just get rid of that, put one more. We'll put a small house on top of this right here. And that's just a simple village, right? Nothing complex. We can put a simple house just right on top. Again, you're gonna have to go up a layer. Make sure it's set to the top like this. Okay, so now there's you've got an inn, you have one house. You don't need to put in a lot. Then you want to go back into that catalog, and you're going to want to choose whatever kind of buildings that you want. And we've already got now, or trees that you want. We've already got a brown or a green hills, so we don't want to go with something too green, or we do maybe. It's up to you. Let's say you want to say it's a different time of the season. You want it to be the fall, or if you want it to be like a winter building. So it's up to you to choose what kind of environment that you want. Again, we're going to keep it simple, so I'm just going to use these trees, and they don't have to be massive, they don't have to be perfectly to scale. It's just a representation of an icon. Now if of a village, it's not a full-on village, and depending on the style that you're going for, obviously these might be much smaller on a map, but I always make my POIs big first, and then I group them and then place them on the map and then blend them. Okay, so I'm going to place the trees. I'm going to make sure it's set to layer 2 so that it overlaps over the tree, over the building as well, like this. And we're just creating kind of that landscape. And I also always like to hide some of the line work, just a little bit of the line work of the hills, because it looks kind of weird or funky. So put some there. And as always, I like to change the size. So make some smaller ones, because there's usually some variation. Just put some small trees in like this. And then you have like a very simple, kind of simple scene just like this. Very, very simple. It's just a simple village. And then if you want, you can always do the path work, which I generally do. You can have a path that goes leading up like this. I'm going to turn off those shadows as well. And we'll make the width a bit smaller as well. There we go. Kind of a very simple, nothing complex. And that's really about as simple as it gets. Now you can add in more stuff. Let's say that you want to add like maybe a big tree that represents like a special tree. Give me 1 second. I'll take a look here what our options are. Let's say that we want to make like one tree that's different but large or something and represents like the god tree from like what was it, Game of Thrones or something like that. You can put in a large tree, maybe take one of these and make them bigger, or whatever it is that you really want to do. You can put in a larger tree, smaller ones. If you don't like that one, just copy and paste a bigger, another one, make it really big like this. Don't make it too massive. Don't make it too massive because the line work will get really thick, but big enough to where you could tell like this tree is a bit different from the others. Now, once you've put together that composition, you just need to group it. So just click that group key, the group button, or press the G key and it will automatically group it, and make sure that you label it as well. So I'll change that group to village or human village, and that way I know that that's what it is. It's a human village, and I can kind of move it around without accidentally selecting one stamp and then moving it around and then having to put it back into its original place. Okay. Now, I'm not going to worry about blending too much, but I'll give you an example. When you're wanting to blend in your stamp with a map, you just make sure that you're using relatively the same color as the landscape. So if you've got this greenish hill, you're obviously not going to want to use a purple texture, right? That would look kind of bizarre. So make sure you use kind of a texture that's relatively within the same range or color that your landscape stamps are in. I'm going to go ahead and just bring this down and just put this on here. I think it's set to BG. Let's just verify to make sure. And just go ahead like this and make sure that it's around the same texture. And you can add in alphas as well. There's some really nice alphas, I think, in the Parchment World set. Let me just check to see if they have those grass alphas. Swamp. Let me see. Do they have a grass alpha? There's right there. There's this nice grass alpha. This might work pretty good. You can put this in the negative spaces like this, and you'll kind of see some grass. That way it adds a little bit more texture to it. It's kind of a nice way to go about it. That way you don't have to like add a bunch of grass stamps. You just have to paint it on. And that's something you always want to do. You always want to let the tool do most of the work for you, because you don't want to put down 50 different grass stamps to show some kind of depth or trying to break up the negative space around the POI, the point of interest. You'll want to use an alpha texture instead. That way you're doing less work. Okay, don't give yourself more work. Okay, so just so you know, an alpha just means that there's a transparency. So when I apply this, watch what happens when I apply this. You see how it retains the texture underneath? Right? That means it's not covering the whole thing. That's what an alpha is. There's a transparency built into it, and that way it's only showing these grassy artifacts instead of anything else. So that's what an alpha is, just in case you're getting kind of confused, okay, about that. So that's the basic way that you set up kind of a POI. You've established what it is, what race it is, what the landscape is going to be, and then punch in your details. And that way, it's nice to just have like a nice composition or a scene instead of just one tiny little icon representing what you want. Now, that's up to you. If you want your world map just to be a little tiny icon, that's perfectly okay, and that still looks great. There's nothing wrong with that. But me personally, I like world maps that way you can kind of really kind of zoom in, get in with like a 4K or 8K export, and you can zoom in and kind of see just a little bit of a composition, and it looks nice with the trees and the textures and everything. So this is the human village. Now, I've only done 60 changes, but I'm going to go ahead and save. And we're going to go on to the next one. We'll do like a Dwarf Town or a Dwarf City or something like that. Now, what's really easy about village, town, city, and capital maps is that as you go up the scale of how big, you know, like a village to a town to a city to a capital, all you have to do is just apply the same principles that we did with the village, only on only bigger, right? A bigger scale, more, right? So if it was like a town, you'd add a couple more houses and then a central piece like a townhouse or a city center, town center, a inn or a tower in the center or whatever it is that's central focus, right? So you're just going to add more to make it a little bit bigger. That's how simple it is, really. So we'll switch. I'm going to go ahead and refresh the page as well, because I was experiencing some issues there earlier. So I'm going to refresh. I'm going to take a sip of my coffee. And I do apologize for any loud noises. I do have a lawn service outside, and they love interrupting me on Mondays. I might have to reschedule to do a different time, maybe when these guys aren't making all this noise. Okay, so we're gonna move on to the next one. We're gonna do a dwarf town or city. We'll just do an upgrade. So this one we're gonna add a little bit more, and might want to go with a different theme. You don't want to maybe go with green. We might want to go with something different. Now, when I think of a dwarf, I kind of think of, we've got the axes here. So maybe they've cut down some trees. There's not going to maybe be a lot of green, or maybe we want to put a mountain with a mine or a cave entrance that leads inward. It doesn't actually show because the town is actually inside a mountain, or you can just take like a dirty brown hill and go with that instead. And then put some kind of like tower and then maybe some small buildings around it. You can use a volcano if you want. You could make it like a pit like this and just say that this is like a mining town like this. You can choose which one works best for you. You can do this one or this one. And I'm also might want to transform. So one thing I notice about this is that there's not a lot of room to put anything on this. So if I go to advanced settings, go to transform and change the height, I can make it a little bit taller, and there's a little bit more room now that I can put some stuff on top of that. So that first step, let's just say it's a mining town, right? We're just going to do a selection, but I will be finishing the whole thing. So someone asked, will I be doing this the whole time? Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to be doing this. I'm going to be creating a whole bunch of them. And I highly doubt we're going to have enough time to do all 40 of them. But I'm going to show you at least each one, a village all the way to a wonder. And if you want, and I'll leave it up to you guys, we can do a part 2 and a part 3 and a part 4 if this is a project that you're interested in. If not, then we won't do another one continuing this, and I'll just continue these off stream, offline, and just add it to my profile, and then you can go over them. So I'll let you all decide on what works best for you. If you prefer that I just do this as a series, or I'll do all of them the rest of them off screen. So I'll let you guys decide that. Just go ahead and decide in the chat if that's something you're interested in. Okay, more parts. Oh, I like it. So now we're making a mining town. This is a dwarven mining town. Kind of makes sense. Dwarves are, they work in like mines and stuff like that. So it only makes sense to kind of create a mining town. So we'll go back into that catalog, O key, F key to open up the catalog. And we'll look at what kind of options we have. So there's a whole bunch of things that can be done. We can put like a whole bunch of, maybe a little bit of buildings around the rim. Or just dead trees circling the rim, and then the actual town is below, or we can make the town above. Let's just check out what our dwarven buildings are for options first. So we have these nice dwarven buildings. Now it's just a town. We don't have to go extravagant with huge, massive structures. We just have to go with something small. So let's figure out how we want to do that. Let's go with maybe making part of it. Let's just make everything on the outside instead. So I'm going to use these kind of small dwarven kind of buildings. I'm going to put a couple of them on the rim of the crater. So we'll put one here, and let's make sure it's set to the right layer. So it's on top like this. And I'm also going to make sure the line work is good. If I put it right here, you'll notice that it's kind of, looks like it's kind of gone into the crater. So just be very careful about when you place these so that you kind of see where it is. There should be a couple more. I think there's 3 total. So we'll go back into the catalog. Here's a front-facing one, And we'll put that one maybe like there, like that. And then there should be another one, I think, right here. And I'm going to go ahead and flip. So flip horizontally like this, so that there's one on the side like this. And I'm going to flip it again and then put another one maybe over here somewhere or over here. I could maybe flip it one more time and just put one right here. So it's just a couple of them. This looks like it's falling off. So let's put one right here so they're to the side. Okay, and then we want to create maybe a central piece with something in the center to kind of represent something. So we can maybe use a different building like this red one right here, kind of small, and just say that this is maybe where a storage is or something like that. So you have this nice piece in the center that's different. It has a red roof. It's different from these other structures, and it stays kind of small, all right? Now, because it's a mining town, I kind of expect trees to be cut in the surrounding area or to be dead because the dwarves are using the wood from the trees or whatever to do part of their mining operations, right? You're going to need some kind of timber or lumber to create your structures and to use. So let's go ahead and pick dead trees. There's no stumps that I know of, though there are tricks that we can do. But since there are none, let's just go with these dead trees right here. They're not really my favorite. They're kind of bright. We might want to make some changes with them. Let's place one down and just see how it looks first. They do seem super bright to me, so I might want to maybe do some changes. Introduce you to the HSBC. You can go ahead and drop the brightness. You can change the contrast if you want. You can still drop the brightness. There's even a hue and kind of saturation. You can kind of change those to what you want. You can boost the saturation. You can drop the saturation. A lot of different things. HSBC is something that I use to make the stamps more compatible with the scene and with the other stamps that I'm working with. So that's what HSB is really there for. So I'm just going to use the HSBC, change these trees, and I'm going to add a bunch. And as always, I like to overlap. So I want to put some in front of the buildings, some of them hanging or right in front or by the crater, some in the back, right here like this. Just place a couple big ones. Let's drop the scale down and just add some smaller ones like this. I'm going to put some in the back. I want to do it like this, couple here. And then let me just zoom out real quick and just see how the general composition looks. And I'm okay with that. That looks pretty okay to me. And I'm not going to add any bit more to this because, again, this is just a simple town. We can, with our next one, we'll really, really bump it up and make it more interesting. Now, again, we'll apply a texture just because I think it'd be nice to add one in. So we'll go over and look at our texture options. There's this nice grass texture here. You'll see there's some nice artifacts in there, and that will kind of match with some of the painting that's done here. So let's apply it and just see how it looks. Oopsie, make sure you set to that BG layer. Press that 2 key to switch right over to BG. And overall, I'd say this texture looks okay. It blends in fairly well. If you're ever having a hard time with a hill or a crater or whatever, or a mountain blending in with a texture, don't forget that you can go to blend modes and change it. So let me click that crater again, go to normal, and then go to blend mode. And you'll see that I've changed the crater, and it's going to match whatever color or texture underneath, right? See, now you'll notice it's green, right? Because luminosity takes whatever color or texture that the stamp is beneath and then adds it or blends it in. So that is one trick that you can use to make sure that your stamp actually blends in. And if it feels like it's too light or dark, there is a dropping the brightness up and down. Let me just change that luminosity real quick again. So it's back to luminosity, and you can change the brightness to make it match with the texture even more. So that brightness slider and the luminosity blend mode are absolute saviors that are going to help you, okay? Really, really help. Hey, Sam Emerald, awesome. So glad you're here. So that's really as simple as that is, and you can add in other textures as you see fit. It's up to you, but that's basically that. Let me go ahead and group that. Just select everything, press that G key, and remember to label it. And I'm a total hypocrite because I totally forget to label stuff. That's not what I mean. How could you? And then just label it. So we'll call it a dwarf, dwarven city, or I'm sorry, town. Oopsie, I didn't spell dwarven. A dwaven. It's a dwaven Anyone know what a Dwarven is? I don't know what that is. Dwarven. It's Dwarven. Yeah. All right, sweet. All right, so we've done a village with the human. We've done a dwarf-like town. Let's go with an Orc City. Okay, we're doing a little diagonal here, but we'll bounce all over the place. We've done 2 already in 25 minutes, so we're doing them like making 1 every 10, 12 minutes or so. We're moving at a good pace. So let's keep going. So now we're going to go with an Orc City, okay? Or an Orc City. Again, think about your landscape. There's a lot of different things. I'm just going to go with tropes, but you can do whatever you want. So for me, I'm going to create kind of like a wasteland with reddish textures. We could go with maybe a chasm or something. You could use craters again. You could use a volcano and then put a city on an active volcano. Let's do that. Let's put this city on an active volcano. Let's do that, okay? So we're going to go ahead and put the main volcano right here. And then I'm going to go ahead and put a couple of these kind of dark hills. And I'm going to put a couple of them because what I want to do is create some spots to place some buildings on top of. So I'm going to surround the volcano with a little bit of this stuff like this. 1 second, I'm going to add it on here. And I'm also going to go ahead and change the texture or the color of these. So I'm going to zoom in so I can see it properly. I'm going to go ahead and change the hue so that I have a relatively around the same texture as this one. It's a little off, you'll see, but it's close. We can change things up. Quick tip, you want to select all these hills without accidentally selecting maybe this mountain right here or this volcano. Just click one, click this hamburger menu, go to select all from this set, and it will select every single one of them, okay? I'm also going to do one other thing. I'm going to transform and I'm going to change the width so that they're not so broad. And then I'm also going to decorate these with a little bit more as well. Let's say that we want some spiky landscape. Let's say that we want to create some chaotic landscape, okay? Go back into that catalog, O key, F key, and there are these nice karsts right here, and these are kind of spiky, but as you can see, there's kind of a problem. They're kind of green, right? That doesn't look good. Let's go over to filters, and let's just change that hue, okay? And then I'm going to bring it up a layer, and I'm going to put a bunch of these spikes kind of on here. Let's see to make sure that's correct. That looks... Let's change that brightness just a bit, and we might want to change the hue a little bit more to make sure that it matches. There we go. We'll put a couple there. Let's look good, one there, and I think they should all be in the same. So I'm going to add a bunch, put some spikes, and I'm going to make sure I'm going to put some on top as well, on top of these hills, and even maybe to make these a little bit more pronounced, you could even put some like on top right here, like this if you wanted to. Just to give it a little bit more like spikiness. And we can do more changes to this if you want. That's fine with me, I don't mind. Let's also put some on the hill, on the hills as well. And you're gonna know that there is a bit of a clipping mask at the base of these. So you're gonna wanna factor in that this will be somewhat transparent. So make sure that you bring it in far enough to where it's covering at least the line work. See right here, you can see the line work, still see the line work, still see the line work. That's a problem, right? So make sure you do that, okay? So I'm going to put one right there, and you're going to want to think about line work too as well. Whenever you're kind of connecting and combining pieces like this, think of a way to connect the line work of both this karst and this volcano. So that's super important to factor that in. So let me just take a look at what we got here. I think this one looks okay. We've kind of removed some of the line work. This is overlapping this little hill right here. So that's nice. Let's put this one right here to have a little bit of overlap. And now we can decide what we want to put down for structure. So this is a city. So we're going to add a little bit more than just your average couple buildings, right? We want to maybe add in quite a bit. So let's go over to our orc stamps, and we're not using these flat facing ones. We're going to use these isometric looking ones. So let's first make our central structure. That means like the main tent in which maybe a tribal leader or a tribal council or just a council makes decisions for a tribe or a clan or a dynasty or whatever it might be. It's up to you to decide how you want your orc culture to be. So we'll pick a kind of a larger one and we'll place it down. Now there are a couple options here. We could say that we could put it on top of the volcano, and that might be odd. You'd say, well, why then would you do that? Because this place would catch on fire. Well, you could say that there's shamanic magic. You could say that the orcs are actually made of lava. They're a subspecies. There's all these different options that you can kind of go with and be creative, right? It's okay to, or orc matriarchy. Oh my God, I love that. The orc matrons have decided that they are going to turn into lava creatures, and it's going to be awesome, right? There's nothing, I want to be turned into a lava creature. Why would you not? Being made of lava would be awesome. I mean, that'd be kind of difficult because wherever you live, you'd probably catch your couch on fire and the rest of your stuff. But I mean, if you could turn the lava thing off, that'd be sweet. Hot seat, man, in the hot seat. That's what's going on here. So I'm going to place it here, just on top of here. And I'm not going to worry about the lava underneath. I think that that's okay with me. And I kind of maybe want that to represent something like maybe this is where a lava god lives, or the hot council. It's the hot council, babe. It's spicy. Whatever it might be, whatever you decide. So I'm just going to put a larger structure up here, and then I'm going to put some smaller ones on the outside, just like we did. And we're just going to branch out. So I'll go back, and maybe I want to create like a tower that represents like maybe some defenses. So I'll put a tower right there. And then I also want to put some smaller buildings. So let's just put some smaller buildings down. I think these ones right here will work just fine. I'll put one there. Now with these, remember the spikes? Make sure that the spike goes all the way down. Because if you're putting it on top like this and there's just a spike floating right there on the left, you'll see there's a spike just kind of floating there. Magic's floating spikes. But I guess that's okay, right? If it's okay that there's a tent on top of on top of volcano, so magic floating spikes, why not? Take it there, right? But if you don't want that, clearly drop it down far enough. Obviously, these spikes. Same thing with this one. I just noticed that this spike on this tower is kind of floating, so we'll bring that down. Okay, oopsie. All right, let's go back. Let's keep going. Let's add in a couple more structures, and then we'll call it good. So let's add in, let's see here. I think I saw a couple. One moment. Let's put one right here in the back. Whoa, that is massive. That is not going to work. Bring that down. And I think I have put it on the right layer as well. I think it's a front, so I'll put it down one layer. And I think that hill also has to go down a layer. Let's bring it down. There we go. So you can see a tent in the background there, and we'll add one more right here, and I'll put a structure on top of that. So I'll bring that down one layer, and I'll go ahead and select another tent of some kind, maybe this nice orange one, and I'm going to go ahead and put it one layer above, and it's going to be right there. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. Let me just place that, center that, take a look at this. Sweet. That looks okay to me. Yeah, that's all right. We can add in dead trees. You can add in some craters around. There's all these different things that you can kind of work with. There's a lot of different options. You don't want to add in trees. Maybe you want to throw in some kind of a ruin, or you can add in like a bridge or whatever you want. There are some fun things that I like to do. Sometimes bridges work really good as a ramp going up somewhere. So there are some pretty fun tricks. Let me just see if I can find the one that I'm thinking of. Sometimes these can work as kind of a ramp going up. Sometimes I've done that before, where you put a kind of, there's no staircases, so you just kind of take a ramp like this, and it kind of looks like it's a stairwell because of the line work inside of it. So it looks kind of like a staircase kind of leading up like that. And I put it in the back too, so it's overlapping. So obviously if you want to get to that staircase leading up to that, this tower is directly looking on this. So, you know, any attackers that try to scale up this are going to get hit hard, or in the back too, because they're scaling up to assault this main structure. Their backs are going to be turned to the tower, and that's when you can throw in a whole bunch of archers, whatever ranged weapons that you want. It's going to keep that main causeway, step causeway, going up to the main structure protected. So if it's to their back, that's going to be a problem, right? So it would be very difficult to attack this main structure because it's well defended, and it's on a volcano. If you're not made of lava, you're probably going to disintegrate or turn into blob. Yeah, just I'm melting. So that's how I would go about that. I don't think this staircase kind of works well with this one, but I'm going to keep it anyway because I think it looks interesting. As always, group. Just select everything, press that G key, and of course, label, right? And this is a Orc City, right? Orc City, boom, done. Woo, yeah. So now we got this nice Orc City. I'm not going to worry about texturing. I've kind of explained it twice. You get the general idea. You just want to use the same texture. You want to use a texture that's going to be relatively the same within the color range as whatever stamps you're using. So you're going to want to use some kind of brownish texture or grayish texture. If it has some artifacts, it's going to blend well with that, okay? All right. 3. Where are we at now? Now we're doing let's do a elf capital. Woo! An elf capital. Oh, I love it. I love the idea of making an elf capital. I love it. All right. Now, when I think of elves, I generally think of like a giant tree, and it's a capital, right? So when I think of a capital, I generally think of a kind of large, it's got a main structures, it's got a lot of buildings, it's the central place, where this elf group or clan or dynasty or whatever it is it might be, you're going to want to find like a large tree. Now, I think, unfortunately, there is not a world tree in the isometric style, and I know naughty Inkarnate, we're going to have to fix that problem. So it's going to look really weird if I kind of use this large tree right here because it's flat. You see how flat that is? And then if I apply a isometric stamp to it, it's going to look really freaking weird. At least I think it will. Actually, it might work. I don't know. It might work. We'll see. We'll see. But my idea is probably to create a large world tree. And then we could have it maybe have some water underneath it, and the roots are going underneath of it. And we could have some buildings that are kind of on the islands around the tree. So we can kind of do that kind of stuff. So we can kind of come up with an interesting POI that will really catch the eye. It's a capital, right? You want it to be imposing. You want it to be special. You want it to be Bob Ross. Yeah, groups can be really complicated. I totally understand. I'm sorry that I'm not really responding too much in the chat. It's just that we have so much to do. And I'm glad that Cheryl and Philip are answering all of your important questions. Okay, so let's do capital, right? I think the front-facing tree might work. It might be okay. You might have to do some things, but I think this is a good start. So we'll go ahead and create the main tree, and we're going to think about what kind of things to add. So I'm going to think about, let's go ahead into the catalog real quick and see what kind of our options are. Like, do we want the tree to be on top of something? Maybe it's in like a whirlpool, like below. So I put the stamp below, and that whirlpool is what keeps this capital safe. So there's like a whole bunch of options that you can kind of choose from. I kind of like this idea of kind of a swirling torrent. And I'm going to go to the transform tool. It seems so kind of a little too much isometric even for this flat stamp. So we might want to change the height just a little bit. And that way it kind of blends in a little bit better. So you have this nice torrent that is basically protecting the base of the tree. The only way to really attack this elven capital is if to do it by an airship or a dirigible or a blimp. Okay, it's the only way to really access this. Otherwise, you're just going to get caught up in this torrent and get smashed against the tree or launched out somewhere. Okay, so you can't really get to this place. All right, so now we're going to want to think about putting something on top of the tree. And there's kind of these nice buildings right here. I kind of like this blue one right here, this Elven Capital. This is a nice big building. It's pretty large. I'm going to make sure it's put up a layer, and I'm going to put it on top of the tree like this. And I know the angle is like a little off because you could see a little bit. You wouldn't be able to see this part of like all these branches right here. It's front facing, so the perspective is a little off here. So we're going to have to do things to what's called force perspective. We're going to force our eyes to adjust so that by adding stamps to make it look like it's not front facing. Because at the moment we don't have an isometric world tree. We absolutely need to do that. I'll make sure to request that in an art meeting because I do think we should add a lot more to the world style. And I know I'm not the only one. I know that Philip would agree with that. Okay, so now that I've added that, I probably want to add in some more things to kind of make it look more isometric instead of front facing. So there are some fun things you can do. You could throw in some trees that are growing, maybe little trees or bushes that are growing up from here. So like if I want, I can even put some smaller trees up here, and I can kind of line some of the building so it's not so flat in the front, and I'm kind of forcing it. So by adding more stamps, I'm forcing the eye to focus more on an isometric perspective instead of the front-facing, overwhelming front-facing perspective that this has. You know what I mean? So I'm going to go ahead and add a couple of this. I'm even going to hide this entrance right here with a tree in front of it because I think that's kind of like that's not how you get in there. There are probably other ways. And so we'll add that. So that looks pretty good. That's okay so far. We're going to want to add more things at the bottom, probably to kind of create more isometric, because it looks isometric at the top, but it still seems flat at the bottom. So we're going to want to add a couple things at the bottom. Someone had mentioned ruins. If there's a giant torrent down there, you're going to expect any kind of structures that were down there are probably going to be broken, right? Now, there aren't any isometric ruins that I know of, actually, for the style. Ooh, a nut more lacking. There aren't that I know of. So instead, we're going to have to use the 2D ones, the flat-facing ones, unfortunately. So we've got to try to find ruins. I think there was one right here. So there's these ruins right here. And we might even have to change the color. I don't know. Let's just go ahead and bring these down to size. And let's just put them down and see how they look first. So I'll put one here, maybe another one right here. And I'm going to put them where the line work is, maybe just for fun. Right there. And we'll put maybe one behind the tree. Let's make sure that it's down a layer. Okay, go down a layer. One moment. There we go. So we're going down a layer. So we got some ruins at the base there. So it looks like that torrent is kind of stripped away a lot of those buildings. And I know that it's supposed to be just isometric, but it's okay to throw in the 2D. It's just to make sure that when you're cross-matching those stamps, that you have to find a way to make it pleasing and to make it to make sure that it kind of comes together in a proper composition. So it's okay to mix the flat and the isometric, but it is a bit tricky, okay? So you'll have to think about the overall composition. So I'm going to go ahead and put these together. Let's go ahead and make it a bit bigger. This is a capital. So there's a kind of a lot going on here. So let's put a big one in here like this. And there are some other options you can go with. Let's say that you don't just want one main foliage. Maybe we want to put a couple together. So what happens if I made a separate branch like this, like that? And make sure you put the line work together. So there's a separate branch right there. Let's say that I want to add in maybe another branch over here, or over here, or in the back somewhere. I can go like this and then put it a layer behind like that, and then drop the brightness just a little bit to show that it's behind. Or you can flip it like this and just use the foliage itself to kind of create more. So drop that brightness like that, and it will look like it's in the background like that. You can put it behind here if you want. It's up to you. You can put some trees right here. You can copy, paste, put another one right here, maybe even rotate it. So that way it kind of gives a little bit more foliage to the tree. And so there's not just one giant green bush. There's a couple branches and foliage that's coming out. And that way it just kind of makes it look a little bit more dynamic and nice, right? So there's that part. Now, let's say that we want to add a little bit more. You want to say that we want to put in maybe a couple more buildings. So we can put maybe a building on top of these two dark ones if we want. So let's go back into the catalog and just kind of pick a stamp that we want. There are these nice ones right here. This looks nice. Let's just use this one right here, and I can put it one on top right here. Whoa, now that looked like a bug to me, and I'm glad I could share that with you all. Oopsie, I think I actually need to save here in a moment. So we'll do that in just a moment. First, let's just go ahead and see if I can put this on top. So there's one there. In fact, this is so similar to these other ones. Let's actually pick a different one. That way it looks a little bit more unique. Let's go with maybe adding in, I kind of like this one right here. You could maybe add in a fountain in the background. So just put that one on top like that. And we're going to bring it down a layer. And of course, we'll have to take that tree and bring that down a layer. There we go. So you have a little bit of a fountain there with some fencing. And then we can put another one on top in the background. So let's do that as well. Let's use, we could go with this one right here. Looks okay. Let's just put that one on the corner here, just like that. On the top, oh, I have to go up a layer. There we go. So that way there's a little bit more going on than just that main piece, right? And you might want to even consider dropping the brightness of this down since it's on a kind of a little bit in the background. There we go. I think that looks okay. I think that looks pretty good. You could do some other things. If you want, you could ring the torrent with trees around it to make it look like the torrent stops at a certain point. So we would have to go up a layer. Let's just go ahead and just drag a bunch of trees around like this, and it will kind of look like these trees are kind of going around. So it's kind of like framing it, which looks kind of nice. Oopsie, I want to select those and bring that down a layer so it's behind the tree, obviously. There we go. Much better. And we'll add a couple over here, one here, and I think that's it. Let me move these ones a little bit further in. Bring them a little bit more further in. There we go, like that. And I think that looks okay. And I'm going to go ahead, as always, I'm going to group these babies. There we go. And we're going to call it a Elf City. Or, I'm sorry, I think it's a capital, actually. Elf Capital. There we go. Got it. Elf Capital. Nice. Yeah, that looks pretty cool. I mean, you could add a lot more to this. You could add buildings all along here. You could put some stuff, like you could have put a building like on top of this main lump, like this branch right here. I'll show you. We'll go ahead and just copy paste and put one like right here at the base, just like that if you wanted. That way you get a little bit more blue, and maybe this is like a watch spot to kind of like looks over the torrent, or is always checking to make sure that it's operating properly, no magic disturbances. There's no disturbances in the force. Okay, that kind of stuff. So you have this nice kind of, you know, elf capital. So I'm going to save. We're at 172 changes. Root cleaning duty. You, Elfward, you will go down to the gazebo and you will watch the torrent for 42 days until your eyeballs turn into dust. Root cleaning duty. Oh, that sucks. I want you to clean the entire west wing of the tree with a toothbrush before 3 p.m. That sucks. I don't want that. I don't want that job. I don't want that job. So we're going to save. I'm also going to refresh the page. I always recommend refreshing the page after several saves or so, okay? Sweet. I'm enjoying this. This is fun. We've saved it. Let's refresh. Awesome. We're going. All right. Thank you, everybody, for making it. I'm appreciating it. It's so glad to see so many fun faces here. I love it. We're going to keep going. Where are we at? We've done 4 in about an hour. That's not too bad. Actually, we might even be able to fit in another one before the hour is up. So that's pretty cool. So far, I'm pretty satisfied with this. I'll end up getting rid of the texture underneath these, but I think this is pretty good. This worked out pretty well. Let's go with an Undead Temple. A temple to the dead. A little bit of Bruce Campbell, a little bit of a little bit of the undead, right? Okay, so let's figure out what we want to do for the undead. And it's going to be a temple. Okay, I kind of like the idea of using a crater to like a gate to the underworld. And there's like swirling spirits coming out of the underworld and swirling around the temple, right? I mean, that's what I'm kind of thinking. I'm kind of thinking, ooh, the baddies, you know? I kind of like it. So let's maybe kind of go and try that, okay? You know what? I'm going to actually set up a poll right now. So just give me one moment while I manage a poll. And I'm just going to ask a question about whether or not I should continue POIs in stream, and I'm going to give two options. I'm going to let this go for 10 minutes. I'm just going to go yes and no, and I'll let you people decide whether or not we want to continue these in a future stream or not. So I started that poll. Oh, we had a server problem there. What's this? Well, it doesn't look like it's going to let me start the poll. Well, that's quite all right. Twitch, you're such a meanie pants. Why'd you do that? Okay. I'll let you guys decide in the chat. Okay, so let's go moving on. So we're going to create this undead kind of thing, and I'm kind of like going to look at the color scheme of this this heraldry here. I'm going to kind of go with like maybe a purplish color. So it's going to be a pit. It's going to have purple like spirit energy coming out of it. We could put a tall tower on top of a karst maybe in the center of the pit. And then the spirits are kind of winding, twirling around that structure. I'm going to make the spirits and those colors kind of a purplish color. So we're going to go with that. So let's pick that crater that we want. I think, oops, I'm going to go ahead and just type in crater or just find it. I think it's right here. Oh, a pit. Perfect. That's exactly what I want. So there's a pit. It's exactly what I'm looking for, all right? So there's this nice pit right here. Ah, man, I love those pits. And I'm going to take a karst as well. And it looks like it's already nice, kind of the color that I want it. And I want to make sure that it's tall enough, but also flat enough at the top to kind of fit what I'm looking for. So I want to place it, and I want to make sure it's up a layer like this. Now you might say to yourself, okay, but how then is it that I can still see some of the pit underneath? Well, we're going to do a series of changes, by the way. And, you know, in fact, we might even want to consider maybe a mountain, maybe. I'm not sure. There might be a better choice to use, like maybe a flatter surface, because I know that sometimes the buildings work better on a hill. So I can just warp a hill with the transform tool. So I'll place it down like this. I'm going to just transform quite a bit. Now, just a kind of a heads up, whenever you transform thing to an extreme, it's gonna really mess with the line work. So be very careful when you're transforming. So watch what happens when I do like something this insane. See how much change that is? It looks really weird. You might as well just use a stamp that's an actual spike or whatever instead. But I'm gonna do it like this, just so it's kind of big enough to where I can put something on top of it. Again, this might not work. You might have to put a couple of them together or use a mountain stamp. There's varying options that you might want to go with. It's up to you on what you want to use. So I could use a mountain as well, and then just go ahead and take that transform tool and just go like this. And then I can put that down and make it small enough so where it's like this. And you're going to say, well, there's nothing. What about underneath? Don't worry, we're going to cover that. So first, let's just get the main composition correct. So I'm going to put some kind of temple, or it could be like a tower temple of the dead. And so I'm going to want to maybe pick a tower from maybe combine some stuff. There isn't an official undead kind of stamp set. So we're going to have to work with a couple stamps to make it work. So we might want to change the HSBC of things and just see how it works. So let's go with filters. Now, whenever I'm trying to mess with the color of a stamp with HSBC, I try to bring up the saturation all the way to 200. So that way it's easier to see the color, because sometimes there's a lot of gray mixed into a stamp and you really can't see the color. So boost the saturation, and then you can change the HSBC. You can change the hue. Then you can go ahead and change that hue. So I went with like a purplish color. Or we can go with a greenish color and make the spirits blue. Green and purple work really well together. So maybe I want to make it like a greenish color instead. So let me just go over and look at the options here. And when I get to a greenish color, then I'm just going to keep that. Here we go. It's going to make the shadow green too. So just kind of factor that in, okay? I'm going to go ahead and place this on top. And this is going to be the base. And we're going to make a couple of these. Okay, we're going to make a couple. So there's that one. And we're going to go in and make another one. We can maybe stack it on top of it like this. So stack that on top. And then I'm going to add another piece going up. And I'm probably going to use maybe this one right here. And I'm going to change that color again, HSBC it. Go to full saturation. Go to hue. And I want to look for those greens. And it's okay if there is a purplish color with the green, because I'm actually aiming for that purple with the spirit, so that works out rather well. So I'm going to go ahead and place this one on top of there, and I might even want to drop the brightness because that's pretty bright white. So I'll drop that brightness, and that way that top part kind of fits in with this. Now, let's say that we want to do some other things to kind of make it more interesting. This doesn't seem undead, so we're going to want to add some things to it that make it seem undead by adding a bunch of dead trees. Undead, so dead trees. So we could put a bunch of undead, or not undead, but a bunch of dead trees kind of up the mountainside to kind of represent that it's undead, right? You know, what would you expect, right? You wouldn't expect a flourishing green verdant paradise representing the undead's terrain, now would you? That would be kind of weird, right? So we'll place a bunch. And as always, I like to kind of hide stuff. Ooh, I want to show a quick trick real quick though. This is a really cool trick that I like using when I want to hide the line work of stamps that I'm stacking. What we'll do is we're going to transform. I've taken another mountain and put it in front. And I'm going to change the width like this. And then I'm going to line up the line work. And what it looks like is that part of it is kind of covered, right? And it gives it a really nice kind of look to it, and you can put a bunch of them together. So I want to put one right here like that, and let's say I want to put another one like right here, and I'm going to again change the width, and then I'm going to put it like right here like this. And what we're kind of doing is kind of creating a little bit more interesting kind of structure, right? Normally a building wouldn't just be flat and the line work just right on top, right? You want to create some more landscape. So these mountains kind of adds a little bit more to it. It looks a little bit nicer, right? Looks more interesting, in my opinion. So we've added that. And you can even add even more if you want. If you want, you can put like another one like over here or over here. You can even put it on top like this. Let's say you want to have some tall spikes like we did earlier. You just go in, change that like this, and then you can just go ahead and place them just like this to kind of create this spiky kind of landscape. And you might want to change some things. You might have to change the brightness or the darkness to make it match in better. And then you can just copy and paste and put a bunch of them together like this. It's up to you. So it just kind of helps to kind of create more landscape. So let's just go ahead and place one down like this again, and we're going to change more to create more spikes like this. Let's put another one over here maybe in the front, so that way you have some overlapping, so it overlaps the main hill. And this is where we're going to hide stuff, right? We want to hide this section right here because it looks like it's just floating, right? So we're going to hide it by just putting some stamps. Just cheat. Okay, and we're going to change that brightness just a bit too, so that way it kind of shows like it's further up the front like this. Make sure that that line work matches, of course. I'm going to make a couple more, and this time I'm actually going to push a couple down like this so that I just have a couple to work with. Like a palette, then I'm going to select them all, then I'm going to go to transform and change them into spikes. There we go. Now I have all the spikes that I need, and I'm going to go ahead and just place them around. We can put one like right here, and then we can put another one over here. We're Bob Rossing it, folks. Bob Rossing it to date. All right, let's put another one like right here, I think. Should be okay. We're getting in some nice landscape. Yeah. There we go. Put that one there. Let's put another one right there. So it kind of covers up some of that right there. Okay, now it's obviously not covering it all up, so we'll have, excuse me, make some changes. So you've got this nice kind of like evil kind of tower that's actually a temple, and I actually don't like the green. What I'm going to end up doing is just drop the saturation to make them all gray. Because when I think of undead, I'm, you know, kind of not lively, grays, melancholy, dark, right? So I'm going to do that instead. I'm going to make it gray, and I might even want to change that brightness just a bit. This one needs to go back down. I'm going to go with gray. Okay, and then I'm also going to put those dead trees that I was talking about, right? Just to add a little bit more depth. So we'll go in and we'll look up those dead trees, and we'll put a bunch down. Let's make sure it's set to a right layer. There we go. I'm going to put a couple down. One here on top, one here like this. And just put a whole bunch. You can even put one on top like here, here. And I'm just rotating them with my mouse scroll wheel and the shift key to size it and the control key to rotate. And I'm just rotating a bunch like this to make sure that they're kind of facing in the direction that the hill, because they would, or the mountain is. So that way they're not, if they're all just kind of facing straight up, that looks kind of weird. So this gives a little bit of dimension to it by just making them a little bit bigger. And I want to put in a bunch of them. One here, here, make one even bigger. Put one right here, varying sizes, right? And if you want, you can have some rimming going around the rim like this if you want as well. I mean, again, it is undead. And we're going to do a couple other fun things too. Let's say that you really want to bump up the feel of everything. We're going to add some light sources and some blend modes, and you can change things to really give it a different color and to make it look more interesting. So we'll be doing all of that as well. There's still so much to show. Okay, so now there is that. Now I think there are some other things that we could do. Let's go ahead and do some cheating. And we're going to go cross stamps, and I'm going to go to the watercolor battle map, and I'm going to look up maybe some skeletons or something, maybe that I can add to it. The line work might work. Let's just look it up. Let's look up bones, and if there is some bones, we might be able to add it. So there's some bones here, and we might be able to throw in maybe some bones. Throw me a bone, okay? Throw me a bone. Now, the watercolor style is simplistic line work. So it might work, it might blend in a little bit with the, water or the fantasy world style. Blah, 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 but the blah, 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 blah style. Let me just trip over that 15 times. I'm not dumb or anything. Okay, cool. I like this one right here. It's kind of like skeletal. We can maybe put some bones, just kind of like lying around in the crater. Just throw in a couple bones like this. You're throwing me a bone. Oh, that's my toothpick right there. Throw my toothpick in there. Just throw in some bones in there. Just throw in a little bit one there. There we go. Just add in a couple bones. I knew these bones are absolutely massive, of course, but hey, you got to be able to see them, right? If they're so small, you're going to be like, well, the bones wouldn't be that big. Well, maybe it's an undead guardian. Maybe when you approach the POI, all the bones coalesce and come together and create like a bone giant or a bone dragon or whatever, right? Maybe the whirlwind of bones just turns into like some kind of monster that you got to face, right? So there's all these different kind of fun things that you can add to it, right? So now I had mentioned earlier that we wanted to create some kind of like spirits coming out of the pit, right? So we're going to do the path tool. Now I know it's called the path tool, but never mind that. Never mind that. The path tool does a little more than just paths. As always with the path tool, I like to put down a path, and that way I can edit it live. I can take a look at it and see what it looks like when I make changes to it. So I'll go over to shadow. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the shadow or change it. First, let's pick the color I want. I'm going to go with a greenish color or purplish color. Either one works. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to go with green for this one. And then I'm going to change that shadow to be green as well. So there's a green shadow. And then I'm going to change the width of it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint in the windows with this green text, with this green path. So let's make sure it's set to the right layer, layer 5. And I'm just going to go in and just go over every window like this. There's a window right here, it looks like. There's a window right here, it looks like. There's a door right there. We can put green in there. Put some green here. Oopsie, I think it's set to a different layer. So now if you run into this problem where something is at layer 5 and you can't put something on top of it, if you group it, then now it's at layer 1, the whole composition. Now I can go in, now make sure that it's not selected. I can go in and just put something else on top of it. So if I go like that on top of it, it goes right over it. So you got these nice green windows, as you would expect, right? You add some color to the windows to make it spooky and freaky, right? There's a door right here, so let's maybe add some green to that. Yeah, that looks good. I'm cool with that. See some nice spooky green right there. And then the next step we want to consider is maybe having some green tentacle spirits that are going to be flying out. So let me apply a stroke real quick. Let me take a look at it. I'm going to increase the width like this, so it's a little bit bigger. I'm also going to drop the opacity because when I think of like phantoms, ghosts, I think of them as being translucent, transparent, right? You should see through them a little bit. So you should be able to see the environment behind these spirit trails that are coming out from the base, right? So let's do that. Let's just create some swirling spirits, just swirling around like this, just going around. And we're going to create some more swirls going like this. And we're just going to keep creating these green swirls kind of going around the tower like this, swirling upward maybe like that, all kind of creating this sense of these spirits are coming out of the ground and kind of coalescing around the tower, protecting this temple tower. I know it's supposed to be a temple, but hey, it's an undead temple, okay? It can be a tower, all right? So you've got these nice paths swirling around that adds this nice feeling to it, and we want to add a little bit more to that. So let's open up that group, and I'm going to go ahead and put a path underneath, so there's still an eerie green glow underneath, right? So let me apply a path like this. One second. Go like this. I'm going to make it the fullest size that I can get it, nice and big. Then I'm going to apply it all underneath here like this. Okay, so we add this. Don't worry, we'll be changing layers. So that will happen, don't worry about that. So now you have this nice path, and we're going to bring it down to the proper layer. So we'll bring it down, down, down. Oh, let's bring it up. Okay, there we go. And we're going to change the blend mode, okay? So we'll go with darken. We can go with, ooh, I like this kind of color. That looks kind of nice. There's lighten, there's screen, there's color dodge, there's overlay, soft light, hard light, difference, exclusion, hue, saturation, color, luminosity. So those are our options. Now I kind of like this color burn right here. This is kind of a nice color. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to end up selecting all the paths and kind of keep that same blend mode. So now I'm going to select one path, select all paths, then change this to color burn. Okay, so you have these nice swirling paths are coming underneath. Now, if you feel like that is doesn't look right, we can change that blend mode. We go back to normal. We can go with darken, multiply, color burn, lighten, screen, color dodge, overlay. I kind of like that overlay. That looks kind of nice. You could even, yeah, I think that looks okay. That looks all right to me, that overlay. So it looks a little bit nicer. Now the next step, there's one other thing that we can do to continue to make this look good, and that is to add a light source, okay? Light sources are really helpful. Really, really helpful to change the color scheme to make things blend. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the fantasy battle map style. Okay. We're going to type in light source. Type in light. Now the beauty of the light sources is that they work with all styles. they're not limited to just that. Was sorry for the lawnmower noise. By the way, I apologize. I'm going to use the orange light, and the reason why I'm using orange light is because it's a little bit friendlier with HSBC, so that when you add it, you can see the color a little better. So I'm going to pick a green color. I'm going to set it to layer 5. Set it at the top. I'm going to make sure that it's covering most of the pit and the tower. Now it's already set to overlay, okay? And that looks good just by itself. But if you want, you can always explore, right? So let's go with dark, multiply, color burn. You can go with lighten, screen, color dodge. You can go with that overlay, which looked really nice. A soft light, a hard light. There's difference. Ooh, there's exclusion, hue, saturation, color, and luminosity. Now, I like a couple options. I like color. I also like overlay. It's a bit overpowered, so we can just drop the opacity of that stamp so it's not too much. And if we want, we can select that whole stamp, and we can even do transform and change the width of it so that that green is actually covering that big, oopsie, that swirl is bloop. That light source, orange light, I'll make sure it's selected, is kind of covering everything if you want. So you're changing the, with the transform tool, I don't want it to be that big, that's quite huge, so I'll bring it down. I think that looks okay to me, and I think that looks pretty good. Overall, this one took the longest, but you get the general idea, right? We've used a series of light stamps, paths, to kind of create glowing windows, to create, to give more green glow emanating from the pit. There's all these different options that you can do to really beef, just make your POI a bit more beefy. And that always looks nice, right? So let's delete that path right there. That doesn't look good. Now, one thing I might want to also consider is that all the paths are the same width. So sometimes it's fun to go in and create smaller paths to make it look a little bit more natural. So watch what happens when I add in a smaller path. You'll notice that it kind of adds in a little bit more to it. So I'll add in some smaller paths, and I'm going to make them look like they're kind of swirling out and going in like this. And then after you've done that, you can change the width again and make it even smaller. You can go down to 3, so you have this even smaller one. So now that you have these different varying widths of these kind of green swirls, these spirits, okay, that makes it look a little bit more nicer, because you don't want the same consistency, the same width of every single one. It creates a little bit more dynamic feel to it when you do these different path sizes for that, okay? So that's pretty much it for this one. I'm probably gonna want to select the whole thing and then press that G key or just hit group, and of course I'm gonna want to label it, and it is called a Undead Temple. Technically it's a tower, but a temple can really be anything. It could be a temple, whatever. It could be a tower or whatever. So it's up to you. So that is that one. We've done 151 changes. Let's save. We've got 3 more to make. 3 more. We've got a tower, which we kind of built one right here already. And then we have a castle and a wonder. Yikes. Sorry about that. The lawnmower. Why isn't it raining? Go away. I'll turn down my mic volume just a bit and see if maybe that will kind of help. All right. So let's make our save and changes here, and we'll move on to the next 3. It's 11, 13. We should be able to do all 3, I think. We got time. Yeah, I'm excited. This is awesome. I love making these things. I'm very excited about this. And then we have a lot of really fun streams coming up. While it's saving, why don't I kind of tell you what our schedule is looking like right now. So we have, let me go ahead and grab my schedule here. So on this week, Wednesday the 6th, we have how to create floating islands with the fantasy regional style. And then on Thursday, that's just the next day, Thursday, we have how to create city blocks, how to make city blocks with the watercolor city style. So just like we made these composite looking POIs, right? We're going to be doing the exact same thing, only city blocks with the watercolor city styles. I'm really excited about that, by the way. That's going to be a lot of fun. So that's what's going on the remainder of the week. So tune in for those. Let's just refresh the page. It's always nice to refresh the page after you've made a couple saves. And we'll go ahead and work on the next one, which is a tower. And if not a tower, we can just move that undead tower over to the tower bracket and then move over to the next one. And we can make a tower, make a temple for another one if you want. That's okay. This is technically a tower. I could just like move it over to right here and say this is tower and then make something else the temple. So it's really, really up to you guys if that's what you want to do. But either way, I like the way it turned out. It looks pretty cool. I do recommend, though, that with your POIs, if you decide to use a light source for one POI, I recommend that your other POIs also have a light source on them a little bit, like put in some color in the windows, because that way you have consistency. If you just have one POI that has all these bright colors on it, all the other POIs, and by POIs, points of interest on the map, are going to seem kind of overshadowed, okay? And so the eye will focus only on this undead POI, and all the other POIs are just going to seem like they're lacking. So if you decide to kind of add paths and detail and light to one POI, be sure that you kind of do it to the other ones, because you don't want one POI to overshadow all the others, right? That looks weird. So put the same amount of detail and attention to each POI. If you're making very simple points of interest, make sure all the points of interest are simple. If you want to go with complex, make sure all of them are complex. So that way, again, you don't want one POI to stand out above all the others, unless you're specifically aiming for that. Like maybe you're creating a POI that's like a spell scar, like the scar of a spell that took place 1,000 years ago that destroyed the landscape. Well, that's going to stick out a little bit, right? So it's okay if that POI sticks out more than the others. But as a general rule of thumb, you don't want to have inconsistency in the POIs, one being really complex and interesting and all the rest are kind of dull. So make sure that you have the consistency there with each one. So we have that. Let's go with a tower. I'm not going to worry about. And let's pick a race that we want to choose. We want to either create human, dwarf, orc, elf. We already just did undead. So let's maybe go with, what would be an interesting temple? Ooh, I'd say let's make it human. Let's make it, or a tower. Sorry, let's make a human tower. So now when you're making towers, and just like with all your POIs, I like to use mountains, hills, and stuff like that. And the reason why I like to use hills and mountains when I'm putting something on top of it is because normally for defenses, height gives you a point of view advantage. It allows for arrows and projectiles to shoot farther. It gives you a height advantage against attackers. So putting POIs on top of hills and mountains is a strategic decision that allows for better defenses. So if I'm going to make a tower, I probably want to put it on a hill. Why would I do that? Because it makes the tower even higher up, right? It's even taller. Projectiles can be shot even farther away. You have a better perspective. You're towering over the trees that might be in the distance. You can see armies. You can see people coming, right? So height is super important. I've already done kind of a brown and green. Let's maybe make a tower that's in the snow, because we haven't done a snow one. So let's pick a hill that's in the snow. First, let's pick this. Now, there aren't a lot of snow options in the world style, and that's okay, because one thing that you can always do if you want something to be in the snow is just to drop the saturation of a stamp all the way to 0 to make it black and white or grayscale. And that way it will be relatively within the same grayish, whitish kind of range as your snowy trees, your snowy hills, stuff like that, okay? So let's first pick that location. I want to create a central hill in which the tower will be placed. And I'm going to want to pick a tower. And I'm going to stick with human So there's this tower right here. It's already relatively within the same kind of color scheme, but I'll place it down and I'm going to just remove all the color from it. Okay, so I'll go in and just go to saturation. There's no color. You can change the brightness, drop the brightness. It's really up to you which way you want to go. You can bring in that contrast or drop the contrast. Lots of different options to choose from. I don't want it to be that big because the line work is just so incredibly different. Look how thick these lines are in comparison to this. Okay, so factor that in, make sure. So let's do some fun stuff. Let's put some, oh, that's a flat, by the way, my mistake. That's not what we're doing here. I'm supposed to be using isometric. Silly me, sorry about that. Let me expand here and take a look at our isometric options. I don't think that there are any isometric towers other than, let me see this one. Not really. I don't really see any isometric towers. So we'll have to use a tower from a different set. And there's a couple options here. Let's go with the Elven towers. I really like the Elven stuff. It's super cool. So I'm just going to place one. I'm going to drop the saturation, of course. And I'm probably going to bring up the brightness a little bit. And I'm going to place one. And it's okay. If the lineness is a little thick, that's okay. Just make sure that you use other stamps to kind of hide some of that thickness. Like this line right here at the bottom clashes so obviously with the line work of this one. So you're going to have to do some things to make it work out okay. So let's do this one. I'm going to place that there. I'm going to take another tower and probably stack it. I really like stacking stamps. I think it really looks nice when you do that. So I'll place that down. And I'm going to go ahead and change that saturation again and boost up some of the brightness. Obviously put this above cool layer like this and put this on top. And that's kind of just the basic part. We can make it a little bit bigger, add a little bit more like this. And we're going to add a lot more than just this. We can add a lot. So let's just do some changes. Let's go to transform and change this width. Yeah, I do like the desert tower, by the way. That looks really cool. That one might work as well. So we can actually add in like a desert castle or something in the next one. I think that's kind of cool. So let's add in that. So you have that. That looks nice. Let's do some different things. Let's just maybe make it asymmetrical. Instead of a perfectly cylindrical tower, maybe we want to add something to it that makes it a bit different. So let's maybe add in this one right here. And in fact, we can even change things up a little bit. Let's do something a bit more interesting. Let me boost this brightness up. Let me remove this middle one, and we'll put the tower actually on top of this one. So I'll bring this down a layer like this. And now this tower is going to be a bit different. Okay, I'll put this on top like that. So this tower has a nice kind of entryway that goes right in. So that looks kind of nice, in my opinion. And you can add in like maybe quarters for a person that lives on the side, maybe a caretaker. So maybe I just want to throw in like a little house or something that kind of branches off of it. So let me make sure that I drop that saturation and brightness. And again, I'll make sure to advocate for more additions to this style, because honestly, you shouldn't really have to do all this stuff. You should just have a winter set for it, and we'll make sure to, do what we can to try to see if we can find time to do that, because we are super busy. Our plate is ridiculously full. So I'm going to probably add some things. Let me add in actually another little hill. I'll just put it right in the front. Let's do a small one like right here. And I could say that maybe this is just like the caretaker's house. I'm going to put this up a layer and put this right here so that you have a little more than just the tower itself. And we have that. Now there's other things that we could do. We could add some things protruding out of the tower. We could add some more buildings. You could have maybe some clouds to show that the tower is really high. You could throw in some clouds swirling around that, and I can show you how to do that. So let's add in some trees. I'm going to add in some snowy trees, and then after that, we'll have some clouds swirling around the top of the tower. Okay, so let's put down some trees first. Put some here. Again, always overlap, have them just going over. And then once you've added in those bigger ones, again, just drop the size down, add in a couple more. like this that are overlapping. Push down a couple layers to make sure that there's some behind it. So you can put one right there. Oopsie, I think that needs to go down a layer. There we go. So you have some in the back if you want, behind the hills, right? So put one behind, so there's behind the hills. So you have this nice little snowy little tower here. Let's just make it a little bit bigger as well, like this. Okay, so you have this nice little snowy tower here. That works for me. I'm okay with it. Bring it down. Next, we want to add some clouds. Right now, some of the clouds might not work for you. You want to make custom clouds. Well, I'm going to make custom clouds with the path tool. Okay, I'm going to increase this. I'm going to make the shadow white because they're clouds. Look, I just made a cloud just like that. Look at that. Okay, now it's exactly the way I want it. So now I'm going to make some individual clouds. I'm going to make a circle of clouds that are going around it. So I'm going to go like this, create one cloud formation right there, create another cloud formation right there. And I think I might have to go up a layer. I want it to be going in front of the tower, like that, in the front, like that. And then I'm going to go in and bring it back down a layer to make sure that there's some behind it. So create a little swirl like this, and then a little bit right here, okay? Now, if you want it to be like, maybe those are storm clouds because the tower is, you know, protected by a storm, then you can do that. You can go and just go back to color, change it to black, add in maybe black, make the shadows black, like this, and then we'll have to go in and change the shadow a little bit, like this. And I'm going to change the opacity just a bit. And so you have maybe some clouds there, and you want to add in some maybe electricity, right? Maybe some lightning or something. So we'll change this up, bring the width down, and add some yellow, and then add a yellow kind of shadow to it. And let's just bring that shadow down, and it's way down like this. And you can go in and just throw in a couple lightning strikes just coming out like this to kind of create a storm. And we'll make sure to change that layer to the right. So you have these nice thunderstorm like this. If you want, you can connect them, create some lightning. So you have a storm going on, or you can just make snow coming down. It's whatever you want. There are so many kind of different options that you can kind of go with. So that's how I would go about going with that. I kind of like white clouds more, but the black sticks out more against the texture that I'm using with here. So I'll just go with that. Once you've kind of finished that up, you can go ahead and just group those all together, and we'll call it a human tower. There we go. Oh, oopsie. Human. It's a human tower. Just go ahead and add it. There you go. So you have a nice human tower. Yeah, you got a nice little thunderstorm in a snowy area, which makes no storm. No sense. Thunder snow. Hey, come on. It's magic, right? I love it. It's thunder snow. Don't touch that snowflake. It will electrocute you. Okay, so we've got that. I'm going to make my save. So that's how I would go about with your kind of snowy things. Just drop the opacity or drop the saturation. Blip, 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 blip. Drop the saturation so that way at least it's kind of in that gray spectrum until we add snowy buildings. Now I can tell you that you can add snow to buildings actually. Let me show you that real quick. Now this is kind of the quick way to do snow. There's other ways that are less quick, they're a little bit more time consuming. You can paint snow on your structures using the path tool. So let me just show that real quick. Yeah, I want to show two techniques. So this is the quicker way, is just to drop this, but let's say that you want to add snow, right? Same thing, add a path, change the width. I'm going to make it white, of course, right? As you would expect, change that shadow. I'm not going to add a blur to it. I'm just going to keep this, and I'm obviously going to want to bring the opacity all the way up and bring that width up. And then I'm just going to apply that snow to, let's say, the roof like this, okay? And I'm just going to kind of create just some random little, like this, put it on top, fill in that whole section like this. Be careful, by the way, when you're doing this, because sometimes the path tool can be a little wonky. Just be careful. So I'm going to put that on top like this. So there's some of your snow. Now there's things that you can do. You can change that blend mode again. Lighten, screen, color dodge, overlay. So if you want to have some snow and you can still kind of keep the overall texture of it like that. So you can go do that. Let's put some snow up here maybe. 1 second while I add that path. One moment. See? 1 second. We'll go ahead and just add that. So you can add some snow. Maybe just kind of going down like this to add some snow on there. Same thing here if you want. You can add some, oops, see, there's what I mean. Oopsie, naughty, naughty. You can kind of put some snow like leaning up against here like this. So wherever you want to add it, put some snow there. You want to put some snow on top of this house right here. Put it on top of the roof of that dormer. Maybe some of it sloughing off, going down. And you can even add little patches, like maybe put some right here. Maybe put a little patch right here. Put some snow, maybe a little patch here. So those are your kind of options to add in your snow. See, now they added just a little bit more character, add a little bit more to it. So it just depends on how much time you feel that you have. If you don't have a lot of time, don't do this. Just drop the saturation to 0 and change the brightness, and it's really as simple as that. So I don't recommend using anything but the path tool, because when you're making snow, because then you'll have to flatten, and once you flatten, you might accidentally go over and paint over here. So the path tool is really the way that I would recommend adding snow to things. I'll quickly also remove the I will remove the color from add color back to this building, and then you can kind of see the snow still on there. We can select all the paths of the snow like this and go back to normal, and you can kind of see the snow patches on here if you want to see what it looks like with color. Okay, I would change the blend mode, I would make changes, but it's up to you. I would absolutely kind of experiment and see what really kind of works better for you. It's entirely up to you. I totally recommend using a path tool for adding snow. And again, you can use the path tool to make all kinds of things. These lightning bolts, these clouds, the swirlies, the green swirlies over here, you know. So it's a lot of different options, okay? So that's what I would do. So we're going to go ahead and we've selected this. We've renamed it Human Tower. I'm just going to save. I know I only made 17 changes, but I'm just going to save anyway. And we have 2 more to make. We have a castle and a wonder. Woo! I'm excited. So we're going to figure out what kind of castle we want to make. What race is it going to be? Elf? Is it going to be human again? Is it going to be a dwarf? Is it going to be the undead? What do you think? What kind of castle do you want to see? You want to see an undead castle? You want to see a human castle? Folks, what is it? What kind of castle we making? Come on, come on. You decide. You tell me. What kind of castle are we making? I don't know why I'm using an accent. Just decide. Tell me. Oh, great chat. Tell me. I adhere to your ways. Tell us. An elven one. Oh yeah, I like the idea of an elven castle. I actually like that quite a bit. Ooh, a dwarven mountain keep. Maybe we'll make a dwarven wonder and add that in. And of course, undead anything. I see right through you and your undead. You know, I like the idea of an elf, and I think that's cool. And I actually want to make a shield, or like a kind of a shield that's surrounding the elf castle, protecting it from projectiles, from magic, from ugly people. I'm just kidding. I mean, whatever works, okay? I mean, sorry, that's mean. No, ugly people, I still love you. I'm just kidding. I'm so mean, I swear. Now, which one? I gotta save myself. Which one of these rows is the elf? There it is, right there. Okay. So we got we're gonna make an elf Castile here. All right, you ready for an elf castle? I'm digging an elf castle. Let's do it. So I wanted to create like a force field, right? I think that's the best way to go about it. So let's think about what the landscape. Are we going to put it on top of a hill? Are we going to put it in the middle of a forest covered with trees around it? Or are we going to put it on a volcano? Are we going to put it... is there swirling force fields going on? Like what's the scoop? What's the poop here? What are we going to do for our elven capital? All right, well, I got some ideas. Let's do some stuff. Let's take a tower like this. This is a not a 2D one. This is a isometric. It's an isometric one. And maybe we can skew it and make it kind of large, that we can put something on top of it. So let's go back to transform, change that width. So now it's nice and wide. It can fit some stuff on top of it. Okay, that's kind of what we're going for. We want to have something fitting on top of it and a force field that goes all the way around it. So let's do that. Now we've added that. This is what I would consider like a platform that we're going to put something on top of it, right? So we'll do that. Next, we want to pick like an elven thing. We used this one last. I love it so much. I want to keep using it, but it's kind of cheating. Let's not use one that we already kind of used. So let's pick another one. This is a nice green one right here. That is not the right one. What happened? There we go. We're going to use this one, and this might even look pretty good because you see there's a lot of like pop outs, and this also has some weird shaping around it. So this might layer nicely on top of it. So let me just go up a layer. Yeah, actually, I think that does work pretty good on top of it. Let me just maybe transform the width just a little bit. And I think that kind of looks nice on top of that. So you have this nice kind of elven castle that's on top of this tower. So it already has height. It already has defenses from attacker being high up. Step one. We've got our defenses down, right? Now, I don't know if we need to add any kind of hill. We could put a hill underneath that if we wanted to. You could put a moat around it. Why not add a moat, right? Or actually the force field. Let's do that force field. So let's do that. I like the idea of that force field. So I'm going to create some towers that are going to represent the energy source that produces the force field. So I'm going to take a couple towers. These towers will work just fine, these green ones. I'm going to stick with the same color scheme. And these towers are going to be the source in which this force field is emanating from. So I might want to put one maybe in each corner like this, one in this corner maybe, one maybe in this corner. And in this corner we have one tower, and in this corner we have the other. Okay, so we got these three towers. Technically there's four. There's one in the back. You can't see it. Okay, sheesh, you can't see it. And these things are going to kind of be the energy source in which our stamps are going to have a field around it. So let's maybe take one of these things and just say that this is the energy source. I'm going to change the color too. We already have a swirly going on. We don't want to have more than one, so I might change up the color. Let me boost that saturation so I can really see the colors that I'm working with. I kind of like that. I'm also going to change, add a shadow to it, add an object shadow, put a green object shadow around it. Let's go with maybe this color instead. And I'm going to change that shadow as well so that it's not quite as big and going out, projecting as far. Let's check out what our other options are. Ooh, let's get a little bit of blue in there. Yeah, there we go. This looks good. And I'm also going to transform it a little bit as well. I'm going to change that height, change the width, and I'm going to put that basically on top like this. So it kind of looks like copy paste. These are going to be producing kind of magic popping out. So here's this part. Next step, we're going to take some paths. Okay, I'm going to put one down. I'm going to pick the color of the path. Let's go with the green. A green color. Let's go with maybe a bit darker green. And I'm going to change the blend mode back to normal so I can kind of see it a little bit better. Let's go with a little bit darker green. And then we'll add a green shadow to it. I'm going to delete that. You're going to see there's a free draw mode and a segment draw mode. You just click. I'm going to hold down the shift button so that I'm making one line, okay? So I've made one line. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that line on top like this. If I can get it on top, my bad. It looks like it's not working. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and select all of these. I'm going to group it. I'm having some difficulty. So I'm going to go ahead now, and I can now put this path right on top like that. And let's just check out the opacity. Let's change that color to maybe it suits a little bit more with that color that I was working with earlier. So we'll add a little bit more blue in there. Ooh, maybe push it a little bit more to the green, my bad. There we go. Check out this blur. And again, I want that blur to be more in the blue-green spectrum. There we go, that works for me. Just copy, paste. Copy, paste. And I think you could put one more in the background if you wanted, like this, so that you can kind of see all of them. And so what you have are these kind of towers that are kind of protecting, that kind of create like this shield part. So we've done that. That last part now is to kind of create the shield itself, right? So there are a lot of different options that we can go with making the shield. I'm going to stick with relatively stamps within the same style. Don't want to go too far off. So I'm going to make this nice and big. We're going to scale it way, 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 way up. Make it nice and big. We're also going to transform it so it looks more like a circle instead of that shape. So we might want to go to height, boost it up like this, make it nice and big. I'm going to put it right on top, just like this. And we're going to go ahead and just go straight to our blend modes. And we're going to see if one of them works well. We'll go to blend mode, screen, dodge, overlay, soft light, hard light, difference. Whoa, that's tripping me. The hue, there's also that color. I don't think that swirl is going to work, actually. That's not going to work. So we're going to have to do something a bit different to kind of create that shield effect that I'm looking for. You might have to go outside of the style maybe a little bit, or you can use a shield. A shield might work. Let's try using a shield that first has a color. And since the theme is green, let's open up a shield like this. Make sure it's big enough. And, it is a force field, so shield kind of makes sense, right? So let's do this. We're going to do this instead. I'm going to change the blend modes. And I'm going to see if I can find one that might work to represent kind of a shield. Oh, hey, that's pretty cool right there. I kind of like that. Let's just keep messing around with our options here. Go overlay, soft light, hard light, difference, exclusion, hue, saturation. Whoa, hey, hue. I kind of like that. That looks kind of good. Let's boost this up, make this even bigger. There we go. All right. Yeah, there we go. Now we got this nice kind of like shield that goes around this castle. And if you want, you can kind of change, you can add a shadow to it, object, add a shadow to it. Let's go ahead and see if I can even see a shadow if I add it. I'm not sure if it will show up or not. Yeah, it kind of does. I'm just going to remove it though. We don't need it. And I think for now that kind of works. If you don't like that it's kind of covering everything, you can drop it down to layer 5, -5, and it will still show up like behind it, and that way you kind of haven't like completely washed out all the stamps with that green color. So that works out kind of nice. So we select all this, of course, we group, we rename it, and we call it Elf Castle. The Elf Castile is done. We only got one more left and 15 minutes to shoot. I like it. I'm going to go ahead and save at 50 changes. It looks good so far. I kind of like that. You can do all kinds of things with it. You could have made all kinds of weird designs to make it look like there's runes floating around the shield. You could have added in some sparks to make it look like it's glittery. There's all these different things that you could kind of go with that makes it look interesting. Entirely up to you what you want to go with. Just keep in mind that this blend mode might not work with whatever your background color is. So this might work for this. So you have to always test and play around with blend modes. And you might want to be careful what's behind this castle as well. If there's some trees behind it, then you might notice that the tree might look really weird with that stamp and that blend mode. So you have to always experiment with blend modes to see what looks good and what doesn't. I actually want to add in some trees in here as well real quick because I want to add in some terrain. It's always good to add in just a little bit of terrain. I'm going to add in these trees. I'm going to make them small. As always, I want to overlap. I'm just going to add in a couple, not too much, just a couple, because it's always nice to add in some landscape. You should always add a little bit. It looks unnatural if you don't add in just a little bit of landscape. I'm also going to hide the entrances of these towers because it doesn't make any sense to enter these towers from the outside. The towers can only be entered from the inside. So just adding in just a couple of trees with varying sizes will kind of help to kind of finalize this second to the last POI. Okay, so there is that. So you have this nice background to it. All right, so that part is done. I'm going to go ahead and save, and we're going to add the last one. And I think it was an undead monument. I think it was. Is that what we said we were doing? I think so. Let me verify. Yes, I think we are. We're making an undead one. Sweet. So let's save, and we'll go ahead and move on to our last one. We're going to make an Undead Wonder. Yes, yes. I am a necromancer. I will raise the dead. And I'm going to use the dead to have them run over to 7-Eleven and grab me a donut and a Slurpee. You undead henchman, go fetch me. Fetch me a Slurpee immediately. No, not 7-Eleven. No. Go to the other one. Okay. Well, I mean, what else are your undead henchmen for, right? I mean, there's not always a battle to fight, so you have to they got to do the regular, the diurnal tasks of your day, have them, clean up your room, just make sure that parts of them don't fall off while cleaning the room, and then you got to clean it up, right? So just make sure that your undead henchman kind of has it together, if you know what I mean. All right, just make sure. All right, just do it. You can do it. Okay, hold on a second. I have to group all these babies together. I'm gonna group ya, and I have to relabel it because I put those trees on outside the group, so I gotta group it now again. Call it an Elf Castile. Oh wait, it's not Spanish. Hello, what am I doing? The cashier? Well, I'm sure there are a lot of people who feel like they're a little undead that walk into 7-Eleven, so they probably just be like, yeah, whatever. I see this on a regular basis. I've been feeling a little undead lately. Will you fetch me a Slurpee? No, I just want 2 of them. Okay. All right. Let's do that last one. I was going to do an Undead Wonder. Now, I wonder what an Undead Wonder would look like. What are we going to go with, right? Maybe we can put in a giant skull or something. Totally different options we can go with here. So we'll think about what we're going to add in for an Undead Wonder. It must instill wonder and terror at the same time. You know what I mean? We're going with undead here. It's got to be something epic. All right, so we'll take a look at our options here. And we could make a giant structure that's kind of a giant mound or something that's kind of dedicated to the undead. We could have maybe spirits coming out of all these holes in a mountain that creates a mega undead creature. We can do that. So, in fact, that might even look kind of cool. A throne made of skulls and bones. Well, a throne is tiny. Oh, wait a minute. For a colossus. Now, hey, I like that idea. That's cool. I might be doing that one. We'll see. The one I was thinking of, and, that doesn't mean I'm not trying to be rude not doing yours, was kind of a giant creature that's made of a bunch of spirit energy that's kind of hovering over the monument, hovering over the mountain, and has a glowing crown. Is that okay? Does that sound cool to you? I mean, just, naughty me. You're not doing what the chatters want. Naughty you, you will be punished. You will be punished. How dare you not do what I want immediately? Nah, it's cool. I get you. So, I mean, I'll go ahead and just go through with the idea that I had in mind. But, if you've cloned and edit this map on my profile, you can go in and just make your own. It's a great practice sheet to kind of get your general bearings about creating your POIs, because that's what this whole stream is about, is to teach you to really beef up, to really give some shine, some polish, some oomph, some luster to your POIs, because sometimes it's not fun to just slap down one little village icon that represents your village and it just looks like all the other maps, right? So if you want to like give some character, really practicing putting together composite pieces for your POIs is a great idea. Really, really helps you, okay? So I'm going to pick probably a dark mountain. It's undead, you would kind of suspect, right? I want to go through my options here. Look at what mountain might work best. I might want to consider adding some spikes to it as well. It's undead, right? We might want to consider making it a bit taller and doing some extra things to it, like adding those spikes like I mentioned. So you might want to maybe put this one on here like this, increase the height like that. If you want extra tall mountains that aren't completely tweaked, you can just stack mountains on top of each other, kind of like this, and you'll be able to kind of do that. You can kind of stack it, and then you have an extra pointy mountain. Or if you want your mountains to look like they've been shaped by wind, you can copy and paste a bunch and make them look like they're kind of jagged like this, so that you kind of have like a jagged looking mountain. So you can really change your landscape to make it look different if you want, by just taking mountains and then stacking them on top of each other. And you can get some really interesting combinations when you stack these kind of things together like that. It's really nice. Looks pretty good, at least in my opinion. I kind of like it all looking like it's swept off to kind of like this side. Like maybe there's been some strong winds, some jagged looking kind of mountains. So it looks kind of nice that way. I'm just going to copy and paste one more. Put one, a smaller one like this, and put it off to the side so it kind of looks like it's jagged this way. So now you have like this nice jagged kind of mountain. It looks kind of nice. You have a nice jagged mountain there. That looks nice. And I'm going to go in and take a whole bunch of tunnels, a whole bunch of, not tunnels, I'm sorry, these things right here, caves, and I'm going to flip them like this to make it look like the caves are projecting upward. Like this. I'm going to place one down like this, and then you're going to say, well, what the heck is a different color? Is that the tree's butthole? Is that the mountain's butthole? I think it is. It's the mountain's butt. I knew it. I didn't say that. I'll just edit that out, okay? I'll edit that out for later. But if you do that, always remember, change that luminosity, and you'll notice that, look, it's the same color, and if go up into filters and just drop that brightness, and look at that. It just fits right in. That butthole just looks like it just fits in there perfectly, doesn't it? It just looks perfect, doesn't it, right? Okay, I swear I'm done. Now I'm going to add a couple more. I'm going to boost them up a layer, of course. So I'm going to put one there. I'm going to copy and paste, put another one right here. And then I'm going to copy and paste and put another one over here. I'm going to flip it. Okay, I apologize if anyone was offended by that. I'm going to copy and paste, put a bunch of them on. Okay, because what we're going to do is, this is where the spirit energy is going to be coming out of, are these kind of, we'll call them mountain nostrils, okay? These are the mountain's nostrils, okay? And out of the nose, out of the mountain nostrils comes the spirits of the underworld, all right? Okay? All right? This is mountain noses, all right? That's what this really is, okay? There's the mountain noses, huh? I'm going to drop that brightness a little bit so it matches in a bit more. And so now you have these kind of weird looking noses that are attached to the mountain. And then from there you can kind of put in, the spirits kind of coming out of that, out of these tunnels, these nostrils, these other words that I shall not repeat at this time, even though I have been. There we go. I think that looks kind of good. I'm going to add that. I think I'm also going to put some hills at the base to make it look more interesting. So I want to drop them down a layer so they're beneath it. And that way the base looks more interesting. So if I add a couple of these hills, you'll notice that it kind of gives a little bit more kind of character to the base, right? And then now I go in and push them up a layer and then put a couple in the front like this. And if you want, you can go in and add these same spikes to the hills if you want. So you have like a spike on top of this one, like this. You want to put another one on top of there. Let's just go with another mountain. I don't want to use the same mountain for every single one of them, so I'll put 2 down like this. Select them both. Change the width like this. There we go. And I'm just going to go ahead and put this one on top of this one like this, and this one on top of the other one. So now you have these nice kind of like spiky locations looking pretty trippy. And if you want, you can also go in and put some of these spikes also in the far into the background, so they're behind like this, so that you have at least some kind of like spikes further in the background. And you might even want to change the brightness to where they're just a little bit darker, so that way it's kind of obvious that they are in the background. So you have a darker one right here. So now we're adding a little bit more character, a little bit more spikes to it to give it a little bit more intensity. So you have this nice kind of mountain. You could call it the Mountain of the Dead with all their beeholes, or nostrils. All right, maybe it's a giant demon mountain nose with many nostrils. Okay, so whatever. All right, I don't know. All right, just whatever. So I'm going to group this and just make this a mountain. I'm not going to name it. So this is where that mountain's going to be. The next step is to now kind of create the creatures and the kind of stuff that's going to be coming out of it. And I want to make sure there's enough room so that you can see the creature at the top. So first I'm going to go like this. There's room at the top to create the creature. And now I'm going to go in and use a skull from a different style. So first I'm going to go search all styles. I'm clicking this toggle, okay? Watercolor stamps are probably going to be the better choice because of the simple and thicker line work, and they're probably going to match a bit better. So I'm going to type in skull, and all the different skulls from the various styles are going to pop up. So just kind of give it a moment to pop up. And this skull right here is going to work probably just fine. There's a whole bunch of them, really. In fact, let's just go with a little bit more scarier. We can kind of pick the skull. I kind of like that one. Yeah, there we go. Hello. I am the evil. I am evil. I like to do evil things, like put gum in your hair. So evil. So evil. I will take over the world. Okay, so now we've got this head. Okay, so this is going to be the main, like the head of the creature. We're going to make the body out of a series of bones, or we might like maybe we want to create a rib cage and maybe put like a heart in there. That if that's too much detail, then maybe we just go with a floating head. So we've got green over here as the central theme. So if you want, we could stick with the same green or go with a purple to make it stick out a little bit more. Let's first just adorn the skull. We could add in a couple things. You could make like skull shoulder pads. You could put stacking skulls. You could make a spinal cord made out of skulls. There's all these variations, different things that you can go with. There's a lot of different options, okay? So I'm going to type in light. And I'm going to put some scary colors in the eyes, right? You look at these kind of dark black eyes. That's not intimidating enough for me. I want something scarier. Okay, so I'm going to go with normal. And I'm going to go over to hue, and I'm going to change it, and we're going to make it purple. Okay, let's go ahead and zoom in as close as I can get, and just stack a couple of these stamps like this. So you got some evil purple eyes. Look into my eyes. Look into my eyes. You are now mine. Obey my will. Fetch me a corn dog. The king of the underworld is well known for liking corn dogs and hot dogs, so of course he asks his henchmen to pick those things up. So there's that first part. We've kind of got the skull here. Maybe we want that skull to be flaming, right? It's on fire, right? So I think it's okay to use flames from different style. It's all right. You can type in flame, and you can kind of see the options that we have. There's this flame here. This might work pretty good. I'm going to make it nice and big like this. I'm going to place it on top, and then I'm going to change that color, of course, Let's maybe go with some purple. And of course, I want to change that blend mode as well. Or just drop the opacity. It's up to you how you want to go about it. That might work just fine. Up to you. I'm going to just go through the blend modes because I just like playing with blend modes because I'm a blend mode freak. Blend mode freak. Okay, so we got a nice skull here. I'm going to put it right here. And I kind of want to create this idea of these arms stretched out. And they're kind of like almost kind of hugging this nostril mountain. We'll call it Nostrils Mountain, plural. There's definitely more than one nostril on this mountain. I'm telling you. One nostril to rule them all. Okay. Now I wonder, does this demon guy ever like pick his nostrils, you know? Like just sticks his demon little skeleton finger down there into the mountain, just kind of picks that. Does he eat it? I don't know. Yuck. Ew, gross. Yeah, it's time to take a break, I think. I need to stop soon because I'm talking about nostril demons. I think, where is this going on here? Okay. So, all right. So now we have this thing. And I kind of want to create a body. And there's a couple ways that I can go about that. Since we're running short on time, I think I'm going to just use very simple bones to kind of make the very simple skeleton of the creature. And then that's about it. I don't want to do too much. We are getting close to we are at 2 hours now. So I'm just going to take some bones from the same style. And I'm just going to put kind of a simple kind of arms. Oh, there's my toothpick. Hey, where'd you go, toothpick? Why you go away? And we'll put in another bone right here. Lots of bones, man. Okay, we can even maybe put that one right there. I think that would look even better. Let's put this one right here. We'll put a bone right here. Throw me a bone, man. And we'll put another one right here. I'm just going to copy and paste this. And we're going to flip these around with the flippy flippies. There we go. All right, we'll flip it around here like this. There we go. Be afraid. Be afraid. Fetch me my corn dogs, or I will turn you into the undead. Okay, so you got to have this kind of creature that's kind of like hanging over the mountain with all the nostrils and stuff. Nostrils. Demon burgers, undead burgers, yummy. No, that's icky. That's actually really icky. Yuck, yuck, yuck. We don't want that. Okay, I think that looks okay. I probably could put some hands in here, but there really isn't any kind of, let me look at this one right here. Giant bones. I think I saw some hands in here. Let me just check. Is there a hand? Ah, there we go. I found a hand. Yeah. Give me a hand, man. There we go. This will work. Unfortunately, it's a little kind of... Oh, you know, this might work. This actually might work. It's a bit big, but I think this works okay. Let's throw in the bone there. Zip copy and zip pasting. And, oh, he's got 2 right hands. That's kind of weird. That's not going to work. You can't be two right hands. What kind of demon are you? You can't pick your nose with 2 right hands. That don't work. What's the meaning of this? Okay, so now we got Mr. Bones over here. He's kind of like, all right, I'm going to make them a bit different. See how I've rotated this hand, made it a little bit different from this one. That's going to give it a little bit more dynamic feel to it by changing up the position. Don't want it to be exactly the same. So I'm going to also put this one behind this. So I'm going to push it down a layer. Okay, so now you have a bit of a different pose. That's what we're aiming for. Poser! Posing! All right, now we're going to go ahead and kind of create the body in which the demon is made. And one thing we can do is, if you don't want to use the path tool and have to recreate all that, you can just make the whole body out of flames if you want. So we can go in and kind of pick the pieces that work best for that. So we can go through and look at our options. I might want to use this one and then maybe change the width of it. So go to transform, change that width. Maybe I want to create like a body. So this is the upper body part, maybe like this. Make sure it's set kind of below like this. So you have like the body here. And then we're going to go ahead and take another one. I'm going to put it up a couple layers. And I'm going to put it lining along the bone as well. So let's do that. Let me change it. And I'm probably going to change the blend mode as well. So we'll go through the various blend modes here and see which one kind of works best. Oh, I like that one. I want some of the bone to be kind of covered in kind of a mist, so it looks kind of right. All right, so I add that on there. There we go. And maybe I want some flaming kind of shoulder pads of some kind of just floating out. So we'll maybe pick the proper one. Let's go with this one, I think. This looks kind of good. We'll put one here like this, and then we'll use that same one, copy, paste, flip it. And so you kind of have these kind of like flaming shoulder pads kind of thing, or a wing of some sort. And I'm going to push them in the back, by the way, so they're kind of behind the skull instead of in front of it. There we go. So you're kind of creating this kind of like demon creature that's kind of hovering over it. And then the next step is, let's just have those same kind of flames kind of coming out of the holes, out of the holes. And then, so rather holy mountain, what can I say? We're going to add some flames kind of coming out of each one of these kind of vents or other things. And we're going to do that. And then we'll create some paths as well that looks like their spirits are kind of coalescing out of it. And as you can tell, these more complex POIs do take more time. Okay, so just kind of factor that in. Now let's go ahead and change some of these to change the luminosity just a little bit, or the blend mode just a little bit. Okay, that stuff looks good. So you got the flames coming out, and now we want to obviously take the path tool, and we're going to want to create, oopsie, I have it set to segments, naughty. Of course, add that path, throw in the purples. Oop, that doesn't look like the right color. Maybe that one? Kind of pinkish. I think it'll work. Oopsie. Then we'll go over to here. Kind of choose a purplish color. Let me just take a look. That looks good. We're going to change that width. All right, so that works. Same thing before. We're going to go ahead and just have paths kind of coming out like this and kind of just going up into that. And we're going to have to make changes clearly. So we'll do that. First, let's just go ahead and make a couple swirls kind of going in, up into the creature. Like this. Oopsie, that looked like an accident. We don't want to do that. Snotty naughty. We're getting some creatures. We're going to just do this, get a bunch in here. Once you've done that, of course, change that width to make them even smaller. So you have different widths like this. There we go. Going in here. Slowly, we got this kind of undead creature. Just yeah, baby. And then we'll go in and just do a little smaller. Let's go into maybe 3. Oopsie. We'll add that in like this. And we'll throw in. So now you have like this creature is coming out of the mountain. And we might even want to add a couple more things just for fun. We might want to add in maybe a couple more of these things. Like this. Put another one right there. Like that. Copy, paste. Put in, flip it. And add it in right here. So we're going to add a little bit more interesting kind of character. Let's add maybe some swirling paths kind of going around the bone like this. So we'll add some of that as well. Let me go back here. So you have some swirling going around the bone here if you want. So you could have some energy that just goes through here, kind of keeping the bones together if you'd like, if you will. If you want. I mean, there's just so many different options that you can go with. We can even add in some bigger ones, go all the way up, add a large one in there like this. You don't have to do this, but it's up to you. You can add in some big ones. Really just kind of make it look like there's this magic kind of keeping this creature together. And so you have this nice kind of creature kind of coming out. And of course, the last step I would recommend is to go in with a light source, just like we had here, and throw it on top. And we're going to put it on very, very top. So it's over every single thing. And it will also be on top of whatever stamps are behind it. So that way it will give the whole area of your map where this area is, give it that color. So we'll change up that blend mode. And we're going to go through the various blend modes. I kind of like that. That looks kind of trippy. Ooh, that looks trippy. You can go with lighten, screen. Ooh, go with color dodge. Whoa, that is totally tripping me the fudge muffins out right now. You can do that. You can go with, let's keep going with some other options. You got to go through all the blend modes, you know, to see which one looks good. I kind of like that one too. Hard light looks good. Super trippy. Whoa, dude, what? Oh, I kind of like that. That's kind of cool, man. That's so tripping me out. Yeah, that's so it. But we also want to change it a bit as well. Go to that transform, change that height. So it's a bit bigger. I'm going to flip like this. And I'm going to put it on top like this. And let's just go out so that it kind of matches everything. There we go. So you kind of have this nice, super creepy, kind of like negative. And it kind of changes things up. The only issue that I really see is that, you know, this kind of skull kind of has, oopsie, I didn't mean to select the whole thing, my bad. The skull line art's a little thick, I'd say. Other than that, it looks okay. Let's just make sure that I grab the right light source. I'm going to copy and paste. And wait, no, I want the green one actually. Where'd that one go? I think it's at layer 5. I think this one's it. Okay, I'm going to copy and paste that and maybe put that over the skull just to see if maybe it will change things up a bit. You know, I don't know if I like that or not. It is pretty trippy. I don't really know. Let me take it off. Let's play with blend modes just a little bit. Let's just play with blend modes and see if we can make that skull a little bit different, because honestly, that thick black line work is just so overwhelming. And so I'm going to try to diminish that a little bit by making some changes. So we'll look at our options here and see which one might work best. I kind of like this difference. It kind of gives the skull, the line work of the skull is pinkish, and that fits in with that pinkish look, and green works with that same color. So I think that is going to be our undead monument. I'm going to group everything and bring it down in size because it's a little large. There we go. Okay, now just keep in mind though that when you do your texturing underneath, you see that green light, your textures are going to be a bit different. So I'm just going to apply a texture just so you can see what I'm talking about. So if I apply that texture here, oopsie, BG, 2 key, if I apply that texture over that, you're going to notice that that blend mode is probably going to have some effect on it. So just keep in mind when you're applying your textures, especially when you have things in blend mode. Okay, I'm going to save this. And I'm going to call it good for the stream. If people have any questions, we can do that too. It's been 2 hours. I think that's pretty good. Did we decide on making this to finish this with streams from another time or whatever, or let's do these off screen? I don't know. We'll take a look. It could save it for another stream. I like that idea. Go ahead and feel free to ask any questions that you might have real quick before we end it. But I think overall this worked out pretty good. We went over all the various things that you can do to really make your POIs pop out. Just know that these POIs are quite big on the screen. With your map, the POIs might be smaller. Okay, so it might be harder to see. So just kind of keep in mind. But I just want to give you a general idea how to put together unique and different POIs from just your standard little village and whatnot. So I hope you found this helpful. I personally loved making it. I had a great time. Everyone was so great. So thank you so much, everyone. I look forward to making more POIs. Just a quick reminder, a refresh on what we'll be doing this week. We have the how to create floating islands on Wednesday the 6th. And then right after that, we have another one on how to create city blocks. Okay, so that's what's going on for this week. I hope you all found this helpful. Please go join our Discord if you haven't. Absolutely, our mods will go ahead and Cheryl will add the Discord link. Joining Discord is a must. Everyone is so helpful there. So feel free to join that Discord. And we will see you next time when we decide to make some floating islands with the regional style. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Please stay safe and healthy, okay? Again, thank you. And I will talk to you on Wednesday. Merry map making, everyone.